All right, so we're going to go ahead and start taking a look at some of the answers at the bottom. All right, so question number 1 says, what number belongs where question mark D is? So who can raise their hand? Tolu? 4. All right, so let's take a look. 1, 2, 4, 4. 3. Right, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. Now, that number actually tells us something about the atoms in those periods. Those across rows are called periods. For example, all of these atoms have 1 of something. These have 2 of something. These have 3 of something. Okay. And what does that number tell us?
How many rings it has.
Good. It tells us how many rings there are. Now, number 2 says what Roman numerals belong where question mark A, B, and C are. Now, the thing is, the periodic tables that you guys use for star actually don't have Roman numerals. They just have numbers. So it goes 1, 2, this should be 3, 4, 5, 6 would look like that, 7, and so forth. So basically 3, 4, and 6. You don't have to remember what the Roman numerals will look like. Now, those Roman numerals actually tell us something about the atoms in those columns, and those columns are called groups. So the atoms in group 1 have 1 of something. The atoms in group 2 have 2 of something. These have 3 of something. Raise your hand if you figured that out. Elena.
The number of electrons in the outermost ring.
Good. Okay. The number, and this is going to be very important to us this year. The number of electrons on the outermost ring are called valence electrons. So we're going to put the number of valence electrons, which are electrons on outer ring. Valence is V-A-L-E-N-C-E. So group 1, all of these have 1 valence electron, 1 electron in the outer ring. Group 2, these have 2 valence electrons, 2 electrons in the outer ring. Now, the reason that's going to be important to us is because that tells us how these atoms react, whether they're very reactive or whether they don't react with other elements. Okay. Number 3, what's the relationship between the number of protons and the number of electrons in the atom? They are equal. They're the same. Number 4, what's the largest number of electrons that can be in the outermost level in elements in row 1? So if we look at row 1, which is period 1, what's the most number of electrons that ring can hold? 2. Now, the last 2 questions are opinionated questions. There are no right or wrong to these, but we're going to talk about how to answer it. Number 5 says, how is the element in row 2 of column 1, so row 2 of column 1, different than the elements in row 1 and 3 in that same column? So it wants to know, how is this one different than these 2? Okay, how is this one different than these 2? So go ahead and write your answer. There's no right or wrong as long as you answer it. Can someone tell us something that they put? Thank you, Ian.
It has less/more electrons than the others.
Okay, so their number of electrons are different. Elena?
It has 2 rings.
The number of rings they have are different. And what else is different? The number of protons, right. So the only thing that they do have in common is that they have one valence electron. 6, which of the following elements do you think are most alike? 3 and 7 or 10 and 20? Once again, this is your opinion, so just go ahead and write what you think there.